Before the sun wakes, voices crash through the still air. Pots bang, doors slam, and angry shouts rise like thunder rolling over red dust. The peace of dawn shatters. A quarrel brews before the first rooster can crow. 3 voices lead the storm demanding, accusing, echoing across the compound. The words cut sharp. Fix the roof before asking for rent. Each shout grows bolder, louder, heavier twir. From every doorway, faces appear, eyes blinking with sleep and fear. Mothers hush, children, a man coughs behind a curtain. Everyone knows the day has begun with trouble. The noise spreads like fire in dry grass. Laughter follows anger, insults dance with pride. And soon the compound hums with the rhythm of chaos. Out steps the landlady, slow but steady. Her wrapper is faded from many washings, yet her eyes hold years of quiet storms. She faces the noise without fear, her voice low but clear. "Children," she says softly, "talk with respect. The compound is not a marketplace." The crowd murmurs. The angry ones laugh. "Respect doesn't fix leaking roofs, old woman," one mocks. More laughter rises, wild and careless. The calm voice meets a wave of cruelty, but it does not shake. Her words fall gently, but they carry weight. The wind cannot scatter. Hands clap, tongues sharpen. Insults multiply like flies around ripe fruit. One mocks her voice. Another mimics her slow walk. A third throws laughter into the air, daring anyone to defend her. Even the shy ones join the noise, eager to belong. The air thickens with shame and noise, and what was once a home becomes a place of scorn. Neighbors hide behind doors watching. Some shake their heads, others whisper that this will not end well. But no one speaks aloud. The mockery fills every corner until it feels like the earth itself listens. From a far doorway an old woman peers out. Her eyes know trouble when it walks in daylight. She shakes her head and whispers, "Those tenants will drive her mad one day." The words float like dry leaves across the yard, heard but unheeded. They land softly, forgotten in the noise. Yet in Macondo whispers carry power. What is spoken with truth does not die, it waits. A young man enters the compound, a basket of yams balanced on his shoulder. He stops. The noise strikes him like a slap. He listens. Then his hands tighten. His face hardens. He steps forward, eyes burning, his voice cutting through the noise. "Who speaks to my mother like this?" The crowd turns silent for a heartbeat. Then a mocking laugh breaks the stillness. The old woman raises a hand and says quietly, "Leave it, my son." The rain falls on both good and bad. He lowers his gaze, but his jaw clenches around them. The others smirk, thinking patience is weakness. One voice breaks away from the rest, bold and proud. The man lifts a bucket filled with dirty water. Without warning, he hurls it across her doorway. A gasp bursts from the crowd. The splash echoes like thunder. The water runs down the old walls, mixing with dust. Silence follows, sharp and heavy. He sneers, "Old woman, your time here is ending soon." Another chuckles behind him, whispering, "Let's see her patience now." The laughter that follows is uneasy. Even the bold ones avoid her eyes. She stares at the mess, unmoving. The ground feels heavy beneath her feet. Her eyes rise slowly to the sky, where gray clouds hang without rain. Her voice drops low but steady. The land knows its owner. You will see. The wind stirs suddenly, lifting dust into the air. The leaves rustle like whispering spirits. The onlookers shift nervously. Some avert their eyes. Others swallow hard. Unsure why her calm voice feels like thunder beneath the earth, no one speaks, no one laughs now. Even the birds hold silence in their throats. The troublemakers pretend victory, turning away with fake smiles. Yet something in their hearts feels unsettled. The woman's words cling to the air like smoke after fire. A quiet hand helps her inside. The murmurs rise again, softer now. Someone says, "The land will answer soon." Everyone pretends not to hear, but every heart feels the chill of those words. And so the morning ends. Not with peace, but with warning. The noise fades, yet the echoes remain. The narrator's voice returns. Deep and knowing, in Macondo, no insult to an elder goes unanswered. The earth listens before it speaks. The wind moves through the compound, whispering over rooftops, through trees, across red soil. Somewhere far away, a drum beats one slow and steady. A new story begins its rhythm. Justice, still silent, has already started to walk. In the heart of Macondo, morning rose with a restless song. The woman who kept the yard standing swept slowly, her broom dancing across red earth. She hummed an old tune, one the wind had carried since her husband's days. Children watched her pass, whispering with small smiles. "She never stops cleaning," one said. She answered softly, "A clean yard keeps peace alive." Few listened, but her voice carried something steady, like a root that would not break. Her quiet was not weakness, it was a shield. Behind her calm hands lived the shadow of a story long kept alive. Each dawn, she touched a small photo by her doorway, the man who had stood beside her through floods and fire. Villagers still said this yard stood because of them. Her heart did not guard the house for rent or pride. It guarded memory. And memory, when tested, holds the power to either heal or haunt. But peace never walks long without a storm. The horn of a taxi broke the calm, loud and proud, before the man himself appeared. His voice came before his footsteps. "I pay rent here, so this yard is half mine," he declared to anyone who cared to hear. He strutted as though the earth owed him greetings. When asked for rent, he waved a careless hand. Next week, money hides these days. His laughter rolled through the compound like thunder before rain. Pride found a throne in his chest, and silence was the only thing he feared. Beside him sat a woman who loved the taste of gossip more than food. She cracked groundnuts with her teeth and words with her tongue. "Did you hear?" she whispered. "The landlady counts every step you take." Her voice spread faster than smoke. She laughed loud enough to draw eyes, for attention was her mirror. Her tongue, sharp and restless, made sparks wherever it struck. In her mind, stories were weapons and laughter was the sound of battle. Close to her, a quieter one sat. She nodded when told, spoke only when prompted, and followed words not her own. "Maybe she's not so bad," she whispered once, but a single glare silenced her. Fear tied her to the wrong crowd, and the rope of belonging was too tight to cut. By dusk, the compound no longer hummed with harmony. Even the smell of evening meals could not bring peace. Laughter still came, but sharp, thin, and mocking. The man ate alone. The women gossiped by the well, and the woman of the yard stayed behind her door. The home that once rang with unity now carried whispers that stung like thorns. It began small, as trouble often does. One hot afternoon, the man banged on her door. "Your rent is too high," he shouted. "It is the same for all," came her calm reply. "You favor those church people," another voice accused. She only said, "The same sun warms all who live here." Her peace was steady, but her calmness angered them more than any insult could. They mistook patience for fear and silence for surrender. From afar, her son returned, sharp eyes, strong steps, heart burning at what he saw. "They do not respect you," he said. "Send them away." But she answered, "When a snake hides in grass, you don't strike. You wait for its head." He frowned. "By the time it shows its head, it may have already bitten." Yet she smiled, knowing storms must sometimes arrive before the cleansing. Then came signs. The land itself had begun to listen. A window shattered at night. No one claimed it. Cooked yam disappeared from her pot. Laughter echoed when she asked, "Maybe spirits are hungry." Someone mocked. She prayed quietly, "May truth walk in daylight." But light dimmed and whispers thickened. "She uses charms," they said. "She traps her tenants with spells." In the market, greetings grew cold. Mothers pulled children closer when she passed. Even goats wandered away from her side of the fence. The compound air turned heavy. Words unseen hung like cobwebs, catching anyone who dared to care. Then, beneath the soft moon, 3 shadows sat by the well. "If she won't leave, we'll make her want to," said the first. Another chuckled. "Let's see how calm she stays when her peace breaks." A smaller voice trembled. "But what if it goes too far?" "Too far?" came the sneer. She started it. Their laughter drifted into the night, thin and cruel. The drums of mischief began to beat soft at first. But sure, in her small corner, the woman felt the change. She did not speak of it. She watered her plants as always, the same rhythm, the same tune from years past. Her son watched her, troubled, but she only said, "When hearts plot in darkness, the earth hears before the ears do." The yard seemed peaceful. Yet peace in Macondo often hid a warning. Even the wind stilled that night. Dogs barked and stopped, as if listening. Somewhere a drumbeat rolled once and faded. The world of Macondo held its breath. For when the night grows too quiet, the spirits of the land wait. They listen. They remembered Dot, and as dawn touched the compound again, the woman swept once more. Her broom brushed away dust, but also the whispers that had gathered. For each stroke of her hand was not just cleaning, it was a prayer. The same way her husband had once said, "A yard stays strong when its keeper's heart does not bend." Those who watched her that morning said she moved slower than before. But her calm had weight now, like a river before flood. The tenants avoided her eyes. Pride began to shrink where it once shouted. Gossip stumbled on its own tongue. The followers who had joined for laughter now stayed silent. The yard itself seemed to listen to her song. She looked at the rising sun and smiled, not from joy but from knowing. The land had already chosen its answer in Macondo. Every insult to an elder plants a seed, and seeds do not stay buried forever. The earth listens before it speaks. And just as though patient walks with steady feet, the storyteller's voice closes softly. When the night grows still, and your laughter feels too loud. Remember the yard that stayed standing? Remember the woman who swept when others mocked? For in every compound where trouble stirs, the earth waits to answer. And when it answers, the guilty learn that silence is not weakness. It is power waiting for its hour. The night hung heavy, and the moon watched silently. 3 shadows leaned near the well, their voices low but sharp. The air trembled with mischief, a quiet drumbeat in the darkness. "Let her feel what suffering tastes like," said the first, voice rolling like a warning thunder. "We'll chase her out without lifting a stick," laughed another, a sound like breaking twigs. The smallest among them shifted nervously. "But what if people find out?" she whispered, fear curling around her words. "By then, she'll be long gone," came the reply, calm yet cruel, like wind over dry leaves. Their laughter slithered through the yard and into the hearts of those who dared to watch. The night seemed to lean in closer, and even the trees stiffened. In that laughter, a pact was made, a secret oath that promised trouble. It was a plan, invisible yet heavy, a shadow that would stretch over the house like a cloud before a storm. The moon kept its vigil as they left. Footsteps soft but certain. Their eyes glinted with pride, and their minds danced with imagined victories. Misfortune, they believed, could be delivered like a gift, carefully wrapped in silence and speed. Little did they know that the earth itself had begun to listen, and the spirits that stirred in every corner were already awake. By dawn, the air carried a strange stillness. It was a quiet that pressed against the ears, demanding attention. The woman who kept the yard standing woke with the first whispers of light. She moved with careful rhythm, sweeping the earth, brushing dust from the corners, her hands steady as heartbeats. Her song, soft and steady, rolled across the yard, a song learned long ago, one that had carried her through storms and laughter. Through loss and quiet triumph, she went to fetch water, expecting the usual cool touch on her hands, but the buckets were dry. Her brow furrowed slightly, a shadow passing through her calm. The tap resisted, blocked with mud and cloth. Her fingers pressed against the obstruction, yet it did not give. Her voice rose, gentle but strong, questioning the quiet night. "Who blocks what all must drink from?" Silence answered first, then a small whistle of wind. The act was simple, cruel in its simplicity, yet the air around her stiffened, holding her words like precious stones. The children who watched from afar whispered, noting the defiance in her voice. There was no anger, only the quiet that always carried weight in her. Her calm did not bend, it demanded recognition. The tenants arrived soon after, striding with the pride of those who believe themselves clever. They smirked at the dry buckets and mud-blocked tap. "She will feel hunger today," said one, voice sharp with satisfaction. Their laughter tried to fill the space with triumph, but it fell against walls that had listened to storms and sorrow before. The yard felt heavy. Even the earth seemed to breathe slow, holding the secret of what would come. The woman watched quietly. Her hands rested on the edge of the empty buckets. Her gaze lifted, sweeping the yard, pausing at the shadows that moved too freely. She did not raise her voice. She did not accuse. She only let her presence speak. The quiet she kept was the kind that shapes the moment, like a drumbeat before a message arrives. Those who had thought to humble her could feel it, though they could not yet name it. A crow called from afar, its voice cutting through the morning air. The smallest of the tenants flinched, as if the sound carried meaning. They turned, eyes shifting, unsure of what had begun. Yet the others laughed, masking uncertainty with pride. The dry buckets, the blocked water, were signs to them of victory. They could not see the threads they had stepped upon. The threads had already moved. Weaving the first strands of retribution, the woman's son approached, carrying a small bag. His eyes scanned the yard, sharp and wary. "Mama, what has happened?" he asked, voice steady but tinged with concern. She gestured to the blocked tap without raising her hand. "Some troubles seek entrance, my son," she said softly. "We will see which enter and which are returned to their source." Her calm was a blade hidden in velvet, as sharp as it was quiet. He frowned, sensing the weight in her words. There was no instruction, no immediate action, only patience. The tenants continued their small triumph, mocking and whispering among themselves. "Soon she will beg," one muttered, and the others nodded. Their words were careless, but the compound absorbed them. Every stone, every corner of the yard seemed to hold a witness. Even the small garden, watered with morning care, seemed to lean toward her. Protective and alive, she took a step back from the tap and breathed slowly. Her mind moved like water, circling, considering, remembering. The blocked water, the stolen moments, the whispered threats, these were not new. Life had tested her before, and life had taught her that patience holds a power that pride cannot see. Her lips moved in a soft hum, the old song again, carrying her strength outward, touching corners unseen, awakening what had always watched. Morning stretched and villagers began to stir. Some came to the well, puzzled at the sudden lack of water. Whispers began to grow in the air. Why is the water gone? What has been done? They turned to the yard, eyes uncertain. The silence of the woman, steady and unmoving, struck more fear than anger. Even the children who had run to mock earlier paused. There is something in quiet that holds the weight of all knowledge. And they felt it without understanding why. The tenants, sensing their power faltering, exchanged glances. Their laughter lost its edge. Small fears crept in like shadows behind closed doors. The dry buckets had not ended the day. They had begun a reckoning. The earth had noticed. The spirits that lingered in every corner of the yard had begun their quiet stirring. What had seemed clever now trembled with uncertainty. The woman lifted a small clay pot, carrying it toward the blocked tap. Her movements were slow but purposeful. Every step whispered patience. Every breath carried the rhythm of generations who had learned that the land listens before it answers. She did not curse. She did not strike. She only let the moment hold its own power, and the air seemed to thrum with it. In the distance, a small wind stirred, rattling leaves and dust. The smallest tenant shivered. "Perhaps we should leave," she muttered, but the others laughed, masking unease. The woman did not turn, did not speak, only kept her hands busy with the ritual of daily life. In Macondo, even the smallest acts can carry the weight of justice, and she knew it. By mid-morning, the compound felt different. The water still did not flow. The tenants' laughter had grown thin, tentative. Eyes darted to the woman who swept and hummed. A song older than pride, stronger than mischief. The quiet that surrounds patience was alive in her, unyielding and ready. And somewhere, deep in the yard, the first echoes of the earth's response stirred, waiting for the drumbeat to return. The narrator closed softly. In every compound where mischief thinks itself clever, the earth listens first. The silence of a steady hand carries more weight than the noise of arrogance. And when justice moves, it often wears the face of quiet strength, patient and sure. The sky groaned like a drum, heavy clouds rolling in anger. Rain lashed the compound, tapping, drumming, splashing with relentless rhythm. 3 shadows moved across the yard, their feet slipping in mud, hearts thundering louder than the storm. "Tonight, we end his foolish tricks," said one, voice low but firm. The words cut through the rain like a knife. Another gripped her shawl tighter, whispering, "If he's a spirit, let's see him bleed." Fear and courage intertwined, each step a drumbeat of defiance. They reached the small back room, the door slightly ajar, creaking in warning. One pushed it open slowly, eyes scanning, voice raised with a challenge. "Old man, your time to scare us is over." Silence answered. Only a strange scent of incense curled through the air, thick and sweet, making the skin tingle. She stepped in carefully, eyes widening. "Look, no one is here." "Only that drum?" she gasped, voice trembling with unease. The drum sat in the center, its body covered in white cloth, smooth and unbroken. Curiosity pulled her forward, fingers lifting the corner of the fabric. "Why cover a drum inside your room?" she whispered. The first laughed, nerves shaking it from their voice. "Maybe he hides charms inside it," he said. Movement, slow and cautious, drew him closer. Then, a soft thump. Once, twice. They froze. The sound grew, boom, boom. A rhythm alive beneath the cloth. Faster, louder, impossible to ignore. Their breaths caught in unison. The drum beat like a heart awakened. The yard seemed to listen. Doors swung open in sudden movement. Villagers rushing out, shouting in alarm. "Who plays at this hour?" The storm answered with a roar, rain thrashing, wind bending the trees. From the darkness, a figure appeared, wrapped in calm and authority. Lantern light cut through the sheets of rain, revealing a familiar presence. "Leave that place," a voice called, trembling but strong, carrying the weight of all years endured. Lightning split the sky. In that flash, everything changed. The shadows spun. Where none had stood before, a calm figure now glowed faintly behind them. Breath caught, body stiffened, knees trembling. His presence was neither threat nor fear. It was the certainty of reckoning. His voice carried like rolling thunder, soft as rain. "You made this house a pit of lies," he said, words falling heavy, landing on every conscience. The earth seemed to respond. The ground trembled lightly. Pots rattled. Doors swung open with invisible hands. "You mocked a woman of peace," he continued, eyes glimmering, "and the earth remembers." The words hit deeper than any slap, stronger than any scream. One cried out, "Forgive us." Their voice cracked small against the vast calm authority that held the yard in balance. "You asked for storms now. Learn from the thunder," came the answer, steady and unyielding. Fear took hold. The first tried to speak, voice breaking, knees buckling. The smallest appeared, drawn by noise, collapsing beside them, trembling. Silence pressed, thick and tangible. Lanterns trembled in shaking hands. Rain-soaked hair clung to faces. Even the wind seemed to still, holding its breath. A question rose, urgent and impossible to ignore. "Who are you, Baba? What spirit walks with you?" The voice carried awe and fear in equal measure. The figure turned slowly, calm, radiating, authority in every movement. "I am no spirit," came the reply, voice even certain. "Only justice walking on old feet." A hand lifted toward the woman who had endured, pointing, saying, "Her patience was my call." The yard stilled, even the rain pausing mid. Silence did not falter. It waited. Then came words that struck like hammers. "When truth sleeps too long, the earth wakes it with thunder." Every soul felt it, the weight of consequences unseen, the long arm of balance returning to the earth. Night bled into dawn, and the storm withdrew. By morning, the room was quiet. The drum sat uncovered, faint golden light glimmering along its skin. Peace lingered in the air, heavy yet comforting. The woman entered, hands brushing the drum's surface with care. In neat stacks lay receipts, signed in gold ink, each one a symbol of what had been returned, a debt paid, a calm restored. A small voice whispered, "He paid for peace." The response came softly, humbly, and left justice behind. The three tenants gathered, trembling, faces pale, hands shaking. The drum's surface seemed to pulse with quiet memory, and they saw names appear etched faintly in gold. Their own Tund Emeka, Eber, fear sharpened their senses. Each letter glimmered, holding them in place, before slowly fading as the sun rose higher, burning away the remnants of arrogance. The villagers watched in silence, no voice daring to break the AO. Even the smallest child hushed, understanding that some lessons arrived too heavy for laughter. The narrator's voice closed the tale, soft and firm. "In Macondo, evil may dance through the night, loud as the storm, sharp as lightning. But when dawn comes, the drum of justice always beats its last note. It speaks quietly, yet no heart fails to hear. It moves unseen, strong, relentless, waiting for those who forget that every act returns." The yard held its breath, alive and watchful. Even the wind seemed gentler, carrying the echoes of a drum that had spoken. The storm had passed, yet its lesson remained. No arrogance, no mockery could escape the balance woven through patience and enduring presence. Every whisper, every misstep had been noted. Every soul had felt it. The tenants' pride dissolved. They looked around, trembling, unable to meet eyes. Knowing that the night's arrogance had turned to humility, the storm's fury had birthed understanding. Rain still fell in soft taps, as if nature itself whispered apologies. Shadows moved cautiously, steps light, eyes wary. The drum's message lingered in every corner, a warning and a memory intertwined. And so, the morning rose over the compound. Quiet returned, but it was not emptiness. It was vigilance. It was balance. The woman who kept the yard stood tall, steady, singing softly as she swept. Each note carried the rhythm of justice, patience, and strength. Even without a word, she spoke to all who would listen. That respect must be earned. That pride is fleeting, and that the earth remembers every act, small or large. The village returned to its rhythm. Slower now, eyes humbled. Laughter came, quieter, softer, mindful. Children learned quickly that courage and cleverness walked differently. Doors closed with care, steps measured with thought. The drum waited in the back room, still a silent witness. Its skin held stories that no one could touch. A memory glowing faintly in golden light, a guardian of peace. Even the wind carried the lesson outward, beyond the walls, beyond the houses. Every corner of the compound felt its truth. Patience is power, arrogance is fragile, and justice wears many faces, but it always comes. The storm had left, but the message remained unbroken, unshaken, and forever listening. The narrator spoke one last time. "Remember, in Macondo, no insult to the patient goes unreturned. The drum may sleep, but it never forgets. The earth listens. The earth remembers. And when balance moves, it moves with quiet power, unstoppable and just." The morning sun rose, sharp and bright, burning away the mist that clung to the compound. Three figures moved slowly, their heads bowed under the weight of small bags, shoulders tense, eyes fixed to the ground. Every step spoke louder than words, carrying the weight of their shame. Whispers floated from doorways, walls, and windows. Those who mocked the kind now carry their shame. Not a word passed between them. Silence wrapped them tighter than chains, and the yard itself seemed to hum with judgment. Their rooms lay open behind them, mats rolled, cooking pots cold, still holding yesterday's smoke in their stubborn shapes. A small breeze stirred, carrying with it a faint echo of a drumbeat, slow, steady, unyielding. The woman who had endured it all watched from her doorway, quiet, calm, a gentle rhythm in her eyes. Her son leaned close, murmuring, "The wind sounds different today." She tilted her head, eyes soft, voice carrying the weight of lived patience. Peace has a quiet sound. Word traveled fast across the village. By midday, neighbors who had once turned their backs began to approach cautiously, one by one. Their steps were hesitant, unsure, each movement a question and apology in the same breath. An old woman bowed slightly, hands lifted in humility. "Forgive our foolish mouths," she said. Another added voice, trembling with remembered shame. "We forgot who fed us when our pots were empty." The response was gentle, almost a song, a smile that held no pride, no anger, only the warmth of acceptance. Food was offered, hands passed bowls of soup, bread, and smiles without judgment. The compound grew alive again, not with noise alone, but with understanding at the food stall. Laughter and trade returned, filling the air with sounds that had been absent for too long. Coins clinked, children shouted orders, the aroma of soup, roasted yams, and spice wound through the morning. A man stepped forward, bowing slightly as he placed coins in the woman's hands. "May your hands never tire," he said, voice soft with respect. She lifted her own hands, not in command, but in a blessing. When hearts are clean, food tastes sweeter. The words floated above the market, wrapping every listener in a quiet truth they could not escape. Evening settled gently over the compound, gold light fading into soft shadows. They shared roasted plantains, small and humble, the scent of smoke curling with laughter that had returned but softened. A question, careful, deliberate, rose into the quiet. Was he truly a spirit? A pot stirred, sending a ripple of light across the surface of the coals. The answer came slow, measured, a faint smile hidden in the turn of a hand. "Maybe, or maybe justice wears many faces." The night listened as if it held its breath, still and attentive, carrying the words on a wind that whispered of long memory and deeper understanding. The next morning brought color back to the walls, paint bright as the sky itself. Hands small and eager joined in the work, splashing the doorframe and walls, laughter rising over the rhythm of brushes. The song of old days hummed through the air, a melody about rain washing away lies, carrying the compound toward renewal. Neighbors watched from thresholds, nodding in quiet respect. The yard, once divided by whispers and fear, now held a calm that rose slowly, like dust settling after a storm. Peace had returned, not fragile but steady. And every heart felt it. Night returned, quiet and soft, the moon painting the yard with silver light. One small figure lay awake, listening, senses tuned to the faintest sounds. Then, thump, 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 a gentle drumbeat drifted from the back room, steady and warm. Eyes widened, heart leaped, but fear was absent. A smile spread across the face, small but bright, carrying relief and understanding. Whispered words reached the air, soft, almost lost in the night. "Thank you." The drum responded not with noise but with presence, slow and steady, a heartbeat that spoke of justice, patience, and the unseen hands that keep balance. The drum's rhythm faded gradually, like a heartbeat slowing into sleep, leaving the air still but charged. Silence returned, full and alive, carrying the weight of a lesson well learned. The woman turned in sleep, face calm, lips curved in a faint smile. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying a whisper that moved through the compound, wrapping around walls, doors, and the hearts of those who had lived through the storm. Justice never leaves the living. The sound lingered, faint but undeniable, a reminder that patience and strength endure longer than malice. Morning came again, gold and warm, the sky brushing the compound with new light. Roosters crowed and life stirred like a song rediscovered. Pots clanged, babies cried, voices rose in gossip and laughter, a rhythm both ordinary and sacred. The market filled, footsteps mingling with the aroma of food, the smell of fire, the warmth of hands passing coins and bowls. Every gesture was a reminder. Life moves forward, yet memory remains. Every heart remembered the night when arrogance met its quiet reckoning. The storyteller's voice, soft but firm, carried above the renewed sounds. When the drum of justice beats, it leaves a sound only the true can hear. It echoed in small ways, in laughter measured with humility, in coins placed carefully in outstretched hands, in a child's quiet glance toward the back room. The rhythm of justice, like the drum, was slow, deliberate, impossible to ignore once heard. It spoke not with anger, but with certainty. It reminded all who listened that actions return, that respect is earned, that patience is a power far stronger than the loudest shout or the cruelest taunt. The yard breathed again, alive and steady. Children ran, careful not to step on forgotten footprints, laughing in measured joy. Adults walked with gentleness, eyes soft, voices calmer, aware that the night's lessons lingered in every corner. The drum waited, silent but awake, holding memory and truth. Its presence was felt in the wind, in the rustling leaves, in the calm of those who had learned humility. Every whisper, every shadow, every heartbeat carried its message. Patience endures. Justice listens and arrogance falls. Evening shadows softened. Laughter rose from kitchens and markets alike. Not sharp, not mocking, but measured and steady. Food passed. Stories shared. Hands exchanged blessings without pride. The compound felt alive again, not with chaos but with understanding. Every roof, every wall, every small garden held the echo of the night. The quiet drumbeat of unseen justice that moves like wind through time, waiting for those who forget the power of patience and the presence of the earth itself. And so life returned, steady and mindful. Every step, every laugh, every whispered word carried the memory of lessons learned. The drum that never sleeps, the night of reckoning, and the quiet truth that in Macondo, justice walks always. Even when unseen, the night fire flickered low, shadows dancing against the walls. Children leaned closer, eyes wide, faces drawn toward the storyteller as if the warmth of the flames carried the weight of his words. Silence held the air, heavy and expectant. The storyteller's voice softened, careful, deliberate, like the slow tapping of rain on a roof. "Now listen well," he began, "for every story carries its shadow and its light." The children shivered with anticipation, hands clutching knees, breath caught in the pause between words. "In Macondo," he continued, tapping his staff on the ground, "Toke, toke, toke. The elders say the earth has ears." The sound vibrated through the circle, deep and steady. He paused, letting the rhythm linger, letting the children feel the heartbeat beneath their feet. "When wicked hearts boast too loud, the earth listens and answers when the time is right." A small voice whispered from the circle, "So that's why Baba Muntu came." The storyteller nodded slowly, a faint smile curving under his beard. "Yes, child. The earth keeps its memory, and it speaks in its own season." Hands rested on knees, eyes wide as the storyteller's fingers moved in rhythm, like drummers striking a hidden drum. "Wickedness may dance," he said, voice rising slightly, "but it never wins the race. It shouts, it mocks, it brags, but the drum of justice waits. And when it beats, even pride must kneel." The children's voices rose together, murmuring in agreement. "Ace. It is true." The storyteller's hands tapped invisible rhythms, fingers tracing arcs in the air, guiding their hearts to feel the weight of what he said. He raised one finger, steady and commanding. "Respect those who own what you use," he said, slow, deliberate. "The house that shelters you, the land that feeds you, the hands that serve you, respect them, or they will remember your disrespect." The elders nodded in quiet approval, the children frowning thoughtfully at the invisible lessons. One old woman chuckled softly, shaking her head, just like Mama Kadi's tenants. The storyteller allowed a small smile, voice softening. "Yes, those who forget respect often learn the hardest lessons." He leaned forward, staff tapping gently. "Toke, toke. Evil is a stubborn goat. When it breaks its rope, it runs but only to return home." Children laughed, repeating the line, voices mingling with the crackle of fire. What Tund, Amaka, and Eber sent out came back stronger, the storyteller said, voice low and measured. "So be careful where your mischief sleeps. It may wake beside you." The words hung in the air like smoke, curling around the listeners, curling around the compound itself, invisible but felt by every heart. The fire shifted, sending sparks upward, and the storyteller's eyes glimmered in the glow. "Do not mistake patience for weakness," he said. "When a wise woman waits, she gathers power. Her silence builds thunder." A child's voice whispered softly, "Mama Kadi knew." The storyteller nodded, tapping his staff lightly. "Toke, toke?" "Yes," he said, "and that is why her peace lasted longer than their noise." He paused, letting the weight of patience settle in the minds of the children. Every flicker of the fire seemed to echo the truth of his words. The wind outside whispered through the trees, soft but insistent. The storyteller raised his staff one last time, letting the wood catch the light of the dying fire. "So when you see an old woman smile while others mock her," he said, voice low, steady, resonant, "remember Mama Kodiand, the drum that beats for justice." His staff tapped 3 times on the earth. "Toke, toke, toke." The rhythm rolled like thunder in miniature, bouncing off the walls, through the circle, and into the hearts of those who listened. The fire cracked and silence returned, deep and lasting. Children shifted closer, whispering to each other, careful not to break the spell. The elders remained still, nodding slowly, each aware of the weight carried by small actions, patience, and hidden strength. The storyteller's eyes scanned the circle, slow, deliberate, as if measuring their understanding. "Every wrong carries a shadow," he said, "and every right carries its light. Remember, both for one cannot exist without the other." He tapped the staff once, soft, deliberate, "Toke," and when the drum of justice beats, even the silent will hear its call. The youngest child shivered, eyes wide, and whispered, even when no one sees it. The storyteller's smile deepened, voice soft as a whisper. Especially then, the drum never sleeps. It waits for those who forget the earth, who mock the kind, who think silence is weakness. He tapped the staff again. Long measured toke. Toke? Toke? The children pressed hands to their ears, feeling the vibration through their bones. Understanding without words, he continued. Slow and steady. Remember, the earth has ears, and it listens with patience that surpasses your counting. Justice does not strike in anger, but in time. When the wicked laugh too loudly, the drum answers. The circle stirred slightly, every listener aware of a rhythm that seemed to beat beneath the ground itself. The wind carries the drum, the fire echoes it. Even the river hums it quietly. Nothing escapes it. The storyteller leaned back, letting the staff rest across his knees. Eyes soft but shining. So honor those who serve. Respect the land that feeds, and fear not the silence of the patient. Their peace is the drum that waits, and when it sounds, all hear the echo of truth. A hush fell across the circle. Children and elders alike, each heart carrying a beat of understanding. Finally, the storyteller raised the staff high, tapping the ground one last time. Toke. Toke? Toke? The fire crackled, a last spark leaping into the night. Remember Mama Kadi, he said, voice carrying through the quiet, and remember the drum that beats for justice? It may be unseen, it may be silent, but it never rests, and it never forgets. The words lingered, soft and alive, like a song that wraps itself around the wind, around hearts, around every living thing that listens. The children leaned back slowly, faces thoughtful, some eyes wet with understanding. The elders exchanged quiet nods, their hands folded, knowing that the story was no longer just words, but a living rhythm in their minds. The staff rested on the ground, the final beat echoing, slow and deliberate. Toke, toke. Toke, the story ended, yet the drum remained in every heart, a quiet, steady pulse reminding them of patience, justice, and the strength of the unseen. Outside, the wind moved gently, carrying the final whisper through the village. Justice listens, the earth remembers, and the drum always beats for those who endure. Children murmured to one another, repeating softly, the drum, it never sleeps, it waits. The storyteller smiled, nodding to himself, knowing that the lesson would live long in the minds of the young and the old alike. Even when the fire died, the drum's rhythm remained invisible, patient, and unbroken. And so, the night closed. The circle dispersed, but the drum's quiet beat lingered, soft as a heartbeat, strong as a promise, shaping every step, every breath, every act of those who remembered the story and the justice it carried.